Welcome to the Good News Mama podcast, a place to get in touch with other mamas, share the load, and know the Lord. Here we aim to lift each other up in the good news of Jesus and the laughter that comes with motherhood. We are a community of mamas just trying to keep the main thing the main thing. I'm your host, Lynn Carter, and each time you tune in, I pray you are encouraged and that you leave challenged and breathe a sigh of relief that you are understood. We were not meant to do life alone, Mama. Thanks for joining in. Let's do this and let's share the good news. Hey, Mamas. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Good News Mama podcast. I am stoked to be able to share with you this episode because it is powerful and super motivating. This woman is such a go-getter, and I know she will inspire you in many areas of your life, just like she did for me. She talks about on this episode how her move pushed her in her faith, opened up new doors for her and her family, and closed doors as well. She talks about how to recognize anxiety and to overcome that by winning your morning and winning the day. And she puts positive thoughts in her mind through sermon messages. She mentions first-time mom advice and how to grow with your kids and bless them by showing interest in what they love, even though you might not be too crazy about it. Here we go. Get ready for some good news. So I'm here with one of my best friends, Jenna King, and I'm super excited to share with you what she has to say today. Jenna is going to tell us a little bit about herself and just kind of share something that she feels like she's learned lately that maybe some other moms could benefit from. So welcome, Jenna. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and ages of the kids and stuff like that?
Sure. My name is Jenna, like you said, and we've known each other forever, literally. I am 35. I am a mom. I am a wife. I have 2 kids. Kaden is 8, and Scarlett has just turned 6. My husband's name is Caleb. We are high school sweethearts, and he is a football coach, currently without a team. We are in the process of transitioning, so that's such as life as a coach's wife. I am also a physical therapist and a health and fitness coach, and I dabble a bit in blogging, and so that's kind of a snapshot.
So tell me a little bit about a trial lately that you faced or just something that you've learned in the past year. You know, when I was thinking about you sharing on the podcast, you know, you and I talk all the time, and you just amazed me with some of the decisions you've had to make and the things that have been very courageous that I probably wouldn't have done, that I admire you for. And just knowing your background and some of the things that you struggle with, I just didn't know if you could share some of that with other moms that might be facing similar frustrations or feelings or challenges in their life right now.
Sure. So basically, what I think you're most referring to is our decision to move away from home, out of nowhere, the only place that, we've ever really lived other than college, and uprooting everything and sleeping and stopping work and all of those. So I'll kind of just share a bit of what this background story was. So a little over a year ago, I was working as a home health physical therapist. It was in the thick of football season, which really never ends, but basically, it was July to November-ish. Kaden was playing football and baseball. Scarlett was doing dance and soccer. And I was about done. I was managing all the schedules, and it was a whole lot. And I had slowly, over the last couple of years, kind of fallen out of, I don't want to say out of love with, because I don't know that I've ever truly been in love with being a physical therapist, but I've fallen away from wanting to do that as a career and wanting to pursue some other passions, and kind of took a major leap and walked in and handed in my resignation out of nowhere, pretty much with little to no plan, other than I had mentioned it to my husband, and he was very supportive and said, we'll figure it out. So I did, and stopped work out of, kind of out of the blue after almost 10 years of practice. And that was a big leap of faith. And then that kind of triggered a whole spiral of events of us moving in order for him to take a different job, and us to move from North Carolina to South Carolina, which doesn't sound that far, but it was actually 8.5 hours away of where, all the way on the coast to the mountains of South Carolina, basically, and just changing everything right in the middle of the year. And the span of moving and the decision to move only took, it was about 2 weeks before, he was hired, and we were packing up our house, and less than a month and we were gone, and dealing with a lot of backlash. My family wasn't too excited about that because we live on a family farm with them, and working in Havelock, where we're from, and Caleb being a coach there and it being our alma mater, and him having a very successful time there, it was hard to leave. And I think it was hard for a lot of people to accept that at some point in time, that we were going to do something completely just off the wall, basically, something very different. That was one of the biggest things, and just embracing the unknown, I think, is something that, I gathered from that. Sometimes I jumped and then found the wings on the way down, and that has kind of, really been something that is we've built on a lot. It's forced our family to come a lot closer through moving and all the trials and tribulations that come with that, and just dealing with those big, hard decisions and surrendering to the unknown, basically. Getting very comfortable in places that are not comfortable. So being okay with not knowing, and being okay with not, necessarily having a plan B per se, kind of letting God show us where we're supposed to be and that kind of thing. So I feel like God opens and closes doors. And if we're really paying attention, we have to be willing to recognize the ones that are opening as well as closing, and have the courage to step through the ones that are open, and to stop banging on the ones that are closed. So I think that's the main thing with part of decision to leave, and coming away with an audience of one, meaning, our Savior, making sure that, we're living according to his will and trying to please him versus, the outside people. Well, I think the biggest thing is, again, that surrendering to the unknown, because when we moved here, we really didn't know. I mean, he accepted a job in another coaching position, but it wasn't sure if I was going to work. I mean, I was going to try to homeschool, and that didn't work out as well for myself and Caden. So we quickly recognized that and adjusted and put him into school here quicker than we thought we were going to. And then I also was going to stay at home longer, but then we decided, financially and at the right time, that I was being led to go back to physical therapy. I went back and I got a job at a wonderful clinic who restored my faith in being a PT, basically. And so I have found that has been super positive, finding a niche in that kind of career aspect. And here's the biggest thing, learning that sometimes, I took that leap and decided to, quit the job and try to pursue other passions. And I did for a time being, but then accepting that sometimes, your wings carry you right back to where you were, if that's where you're supposed to be. So, I fell back into being a PT and still kept up with some of the things that I do enjoy. And what I'm referring to there is, I started a website, I started a blog, and I have an outlet through writing, which is very special to me. I still do that, but I'm also working again. And both kids are in school now. So I was able to get us, through that time of us being here and in the transition to both kids being in school and my returning to work. And like you mentioned, us returning back to North Carolina because that's just one of those things that didn't work out here as far as, everything with the particular, job that he had. And that is completely fine. And us being willing to recognize that and to move. Oftentimes, I think we're so stuck on being, in our comfort zone that we won't move. We won't not like physically move. I mean that figuratively too. Like you're just stuck in your comfort zone. You just kind of are staying there. You have to be willing to go outside of it and, pursue some things that, might be something that sounds crazy, like moving 8 hours away and then moving right back, 8 months later. And that's okay. I mean, it's just one of those being comfortable in the unknown and getting outside your comfort zone. Our family is closer together. The four of us are very much more tight knit than we were before. We've always been close, but having lots of family around previously is a wonderful thing. But now I know that that's a blessing as well. But that our four people, our very close knit family, can stand on our own as well.
And so something that I hear that you said several times has brought me back. It makes me think of the word pivot or shift. Like you've had tons of opportunities that you could have let derail you or dwelled on the failure of it or not what you conceived in your mind. It didn't turn out to be this way. So, oh my gosh, what do I do? It's like, no, this doesn't work. So we're going to go this way. It was the same thing with homeschooling. This didn't work. We tried it. Good luck. Go to the next thing. And it wasn't like you got stuck and you dwelled on it, but you turned it into a positive. You saw that, you recognized that it wasn't working, and then you moved on from there and you didn't let it take you off of your purpose and the track that you were on. And the same thing, it just, as you were talking, I kept hearing, you're not stuck unless you choose to be. There's always an option. There's always a place to go. God's always going to guide you when you pray to him and ask him for that. And one of the things I was thinking of that I was hoping you'd say, and I know that you're like, duh, after I say it, but that Caden got saved and was baptized in South Carolina. So for me, and thinking about this as your friend, like if anything, that whole trip, that whole year would have been worth it right there just because Caden gave his life to Christ and was baptized.
One thing really needed here was the church that we found. We had a wonderful church in North Carolina, but the church here that we made our home has greatly impacted all four of us. We are all individually and as a family much closer to the Lord and putting into practice things that, we all know we should read our Bible and be in the Word every day and things like that, but actually legit putting it into practice now on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and holding each other accountable and that kind of thing. And then, Caden accepting Jesus and that kind of thing. I know that was seeds that were planted since birth for him, but that really came to fruition here because of, the way that church was here for him and the youth ministry that they had and, all of that just coming into play. And that's been an absolute, wonderful thing.
Yes. And another thing that amazes me even more from this is I know that you struggle with anxiety and thoughts and things that like any mom does, but we all don't know to what degree the next mom struggles with. But I know you can speak to just having random thoughts and not dwelling on them and coming up with ways and strategies to get around those thoughts. And is there any particular thing you'd want to share with a mom that struggles with anxiety that might think, well, I can't make this choice or I can't make a big life decision because I don't know the outcome, and they just kind of get in that cycle, they get stuck and they just perseverate on that same thing and they just go nowhere? What would you tell that mom?
Definitely. So I'm a worrywart by nature and have been always, but I've been trying to change that kind of persona that I identify with. And, yes, there is anxiety that you deal with, not on like a diagnosed per se level, but I can pretty much say, yes, it's there. And I have educated myself and learned ways to deal with that. And part of that is becoming aware enough to know your triggers and things that bother you and things that tend to set you off into, being full of anxiety. And then deciding that you're not defined by any kind of thought or any kind of anxious filled moment that you have, but that you have the strategies that work for you where you can kind of overcome it and move past it. And you practice those intentionally. I think intentionality is a huge thing when it comes to dealing with anxiety because when you're somebody who can ruminate on thoughts for a long time and twist them and turn them and allow, if you want to say Satan to twist things, that, I feel like that's a true thing that happens. But if you get stuck, you can go down 1,000 rabbit holes a day. I would say, things like visualization and intentionally making yourself not fall down the rabbit hole. I mean, I can almost like envision, my foot getting caught in a bramble or something and starting to slip down a rabbit hole when I start to like ruminate on a thought. And then, part of what I do is visualize me kicking it off my foot and stepping away from it and moving away. And that also means moving away from whatever it was that was triggering it, whether it, be something like watching the news and seeing a bad story and then, placing yourself into the story. Those kind of things are all triggers for me, but I, with intentionality, don't watch the news. That's one of the things. And, if that makes me less in tune to what's going on, that's okay. If it's big enough news, I find it out. I mean, you can't hide from tragedies for that long. I mean, in the day of social media and everything, you figure stuff out, but I don't need to know about every single terrible thing. So I stay away from things like that, and also have ways that help me just feel more centered. And I have a thing that I came up with, kind of based off of a couple different books that I've read, personal development books. One of them was The Miracle Morning.
Hal Elrod, that's his name.
Yeah, there you go. So his book, and also The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. There's a few different books like that I read and kind of meshed everything into something that I call my 10 to win. And I do that to basically win the morning every day, because I feel like if I can win the morning, I can have a better chance at winning the day. And if I don't win the day, then at least I've had a small victory in the morning. And a lot of those deal with things that help me feel more centered and grounded, and help me to control anxiety before it controls you, to get ahead of it before it becomes even an issue. And I'm happy to, share what those 10 things are if you want. Want me to go into detail about that? All right. So, and there's something that I try to practice every day. The first one is when I wake up, I focused on positive input first. So I don't check Facebook. I don't check my email. I don't check my messages. I immediately pick up my phone as I'm walking to the bathroom to brush my teeth, and I click on YouTube. And because of my previous saved watches and things like that, the first thing that pops up is usually a sermon from Elevation Church, which I love Stephen Furtick. I listen to his stuff all the time. And I typically hit play right then and start listening immediately to positive input. Now, it doesn't always have to be a 45-minute sermon. Sometimes it's just motivational things. You can look up all of that stuff on YouTube. Just type in morning motivation videos and you'll be bombarded with them. So I immediately plug into positive input first before my brain has the ability to take over. And then I do try to have an attitude of gratitude and typically write down in a journal 5 things I'm grateful for. And then I do some positive affirmations. I do those in written form, things that I want to happen and things that I want to, work intentionally on. Again, things like I am a present mom, I am an exceptional wife, I am, physically strong, I am spiritually strong, I am debt-free, things like that. There's 10 of them that I actually list out that I do positive affirmations. I also eat a healthy breakfast. I eat the same thing every morning, 2 eggs and a cup of spinach cooked in a pan. So I eat that typically every single day. After breakfast, I exercise. That's probably the biggest thing for me. My exercise is the time that I get out rest. So that's the first 5 things I do.
How long does it take you to do your 10 to win every morning?
About an hour and a half. I
Yeah.
get up early.
What time do you get up?
First one, I should have mentioned that was to get up on time. I don't hit snooze. I do not hit the snooze button. Read the book 5-second rule if you want to know the science behind it, but I don't hit snooze. So I get up on time. And then, like I said, I do the positive input first. And then I do the positive affirmations. And part of my positive input is where I read the Bible. So that's one of the ways that I do that. And that's probably why it takes me a little bit longer, because I spend quite a bit of time in that. Another thing that I try to do intentionally is to greet my loved ones with a smile. So if I'm the first person that they're going to see, I try to intentionally smile at them and make them feel like they're special first thing in the morning. Making the bed to prep the night before. So that means, all the bags the kids have to have and all my stuff, I try to get it all together. Make sure the homework books are signed and this and that. And I just try to have that all done. That'll make the morning smoother. And then the last one is to leave the house on time.
I need to adopt some of that for myself.
It's good stuff, man. Just,
Yes.
I have worked on this for the last couple of years, and those are mine. And I tell people when I teach them this in some of my coaching that my 10 might not be your 10.
Yeah.
Maybe you just not to make the bed.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't necessarily leave the house on time, but if there's something else that will help control how you feel and make you feel accomplished and help you to be less anxious, that needs to be in your 10 to win.
Yeah.
And 10 just 10 to win sounds
good. So let's pick 10. I love it. And I mean, you think about it, and part of the reason that I get stressed is because I don't have time just to stop and think, because it's boom, 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 one thing after another, and you're not pausing and you're not inhaling and exhaling and focusing on what really matters. And like you said about waking at 5 a.m., like that's a new goal of mine for 2020, which obviously means that my 1-year-old will have to sleep through the night, which we're working on. But getting up early means you have to go to bed early, right, to get a good restful night's sleep. So that's a priority for me this year. So good. I took notes on that so that I would be able to incorporate some of those into my routine. Thank you, dear.
And mine not always take so long. I used to, only read a little bit of positive development and maybe listen to 5 minutes of input. I mean, you can make it go boom, boom, boom if you need to. But as you fall into the habit and the routine and really start realizing how helpful it is, then you're almost willing to get up earlier so that you can have the time to focus on you and focus on yourself before the rest of the world needs you.
That's so good. I love what you said about greeting your family with a smile, because even with my little ones, I know that when I smile at them, they reflect what they see. So if they see me happy, they tend to reflect that happiness back, and that's very important. I love that. So just a couple more questions. You've been very helpful in all that you've been sharing. Thank you for being so open. The other things I was thinking of was, what is something that you possibly, or you think other moms make harder than it has to be? Or what are some things that we overcomplicate when really it's not that complicated?
So many things. I think it's more of like a generalization that I'm going to say. And I think that we just overcomplicate the process of everything. Like the comparison of trying to research and figure out what we should do in a world where we have, unfathomable information at our fingertips. There's like 1,000 ways you can get your kid to sleep, or get your kid to eat, or get your kid to learn, or, plan the perfect party, or try to do this way and parent that way. There's too much information all at once that's so readily available that I think we overcomplicate trying to figure it out. I think I figured that out to myself when, some very well-meaning people gave me several books when I as a baby shower present with my first child, and I tried to read them all, and then I was trying to implement them all. And about a month and a half into it, I was about to go nuts, and I decided to throw it away and not follow the pattern. And maybe the pattern works for you. Maybe you are the mom who really wants to do whatever the I can't even remember, but there was letters, and it was like eat, sleep, something, play. I don't know. But if my kid it was supposed to do and it was supposed to do it, it really stressed me out.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing I ever did was just throw it away and just, accept that I don't know. They didn't come with a manual. and they're not going to ever fit into a manual. And about the time that you get used to something, it's going to change.
That's such great advice, because now on my third kid, who is nothing like my first or my second, when you think you have them all figured out, you're just like, oh no, they're not the same. It doesn't matter what books you've read, what strategies you try, they all come out with their own little personality, and you get one figured out, and the next one is nothing like the one before. So that is great advice.
Two is totally different than four, which is different than 5, 6.
Yes.
I mean, a half, the 8. I mean, they change continuously. I think if we try to make ourselves fit into such a specific pattern that matches, whoever you see on Instagram or whatever, it's not going to work. It's not you. It's not your child. One of the best things I've ever heard is that you were made specifically for your child. God chose you to parent your child. There's no other parent that can do it better, because you and them were matched specifically together.
Yes.
So
that's so good that you shared that, because I don't know that I've shared this with you, but that's the whole reason that I wanted to start this podcast. Was a mom friend of mine said, kind of just at random one day we were talking, she just kind of looked downtrodden, and she said, I just don't know if I'm the mom that these babies are supposed to have, like if I'm the mama for these babies. And it just shook me. And all the small groups that you and I have been a part of growing up, and all the encouragement that we shared through the word and through other women going through the same phase of life. And I just realized we don't have the time to get out of our house with all these kids, but we can tune into something like this, and we can encourage each other like we are right now. So you hit the nail on the head with that one, girl.
Anxiety and thoughts and things like that will tell you that you're not the right mom for your kids. There will be lies the devil will tell you and try to convince you that you're not the right mom. But when you accept that you are, and that God doesn't get it wrong, it doesn't mean that we're perfect. It doesn't mean that I'm always going to make the right decision. But it just means that you are the right one, and that there's no one else that could do it better if you're trying to do it to the best of your ability. And maybe the things that make you feel inferior, or the things that make you feel like you're not the right mom, are because those things are going to be needed later in your child's life.
That's good. That was so good. Just a random question about showing love to your kids. What way do you specifically try to show love to your kids every day? Is there something that you do, or you tell them, or a routine you have with them that they know? Maybe every night you tell them something.
I wish I could say like I had the awesome bedtime routine, or that special time or something like in the bath, but I really honestly despise bath time, and really don't like trying to get them in the bed at the right time. I mean, we do it, but that's where I have to also intentionally try to remind myself to be calm. But I would say one thing that I try to do, and I won't say this is necessarily on a daily basis more than when it needs to happen, it happens, is that I try to listen, and I try to show interest in something that I'm not interested in. I mean, the little things, I try to make sure that I play an active role in listening and taking part of things that they particularly enjoy, that I might have no clue or might think are silly, or no, not important, or if I don't see the big picture. Like Caden, I talk about him. He's very into Minecraft and very into watching other people play Minecraft to teach him how to play it, and it's mind-numbingly boring sometimes. But I try to take an interest and try to learn and foster his love for that, because that's something that he's interested in. He wants to currently be a YouTuber, and so I try to show him like the hard work behind it, and positive people that he can watch and learn from. When I mean, I don't know that any mom really goes, I want my kid to be a YouTuber, but right now that is his dream, and I am not going to squash his dreams. I'm sure they'll change 1,000 times, but I want to foster, his belief in himself, and, not squander that just because it's something he's not interesting to me.
So, last question. In what way are you hoping to get better? Is there something that you're shooting for in the upcoming year that you, either as a mom or just as a woman, or anything that you want to be better, do better type of thing?
Making sure that I'm open-minded and, really kind of developing them able to do that, I guess, on the mom side, and then more on the personal side. I guess some spiritual goals, continuing with the practice of reading every day and really leaning into listening and being better at, more intentional prayer life. I can read the Bible and I can listen to stuff, but prayer is something that doesn't come as naturally to me. That out time, I think I find myself as more of a person who's, I don't want to say in a constant prayer, but as like a quick there. Oh Lord, da 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 da, and oh thank you for this, or oh by the way, I'm praying for this person, and rather than it be like a 5 to 10 minute sitting down from 5 a.m. to 5:15 praying, mine's more like sporadic throughout the day. I don't know that that's necessarily wrong, but I would like to incorporate maybe some more intentional prayer time.
Well, thank you for that. Is it okay if I pray with you about that before we finish and end in a prayer today? I have loved talking with you, girl. It's always so encouraging. I do. You're just such a breath of fresh air. And I know there are going to be tons of mamas that will benefit from this because it's real and it's just where you're at in life and where I'm at in life. And I know other people can relate. So thank you for being open, honest, being vulnerable, and authentic. All right, let's pray together. Dear Lord, I just thank you for this woman. I love her so much, and I know her heart is on fire for you, and I know that she wants to see you move in every area of her life. Lord, I thank you for the successes that she's had over the past couple of years, putting in her 10 to win and figuring out that this is what the path that you have for her, that helps her operate at her best, that helps her to show up in the times that she spends with her family and her husband and her job and the people she comes in contact with, that she can give her best every day. Lord, I just lift up to you specifically her heart and the goals that she has for 2020 and the things that maybe she didn't talk about today, but the things that she did talk about, we specifically lift up to you for relating to her kids and just showing them that they're so important to her and that she wants to encourage the passions that they have and the drive that you've put in them that were crafted inside of them as you knit them together in her womb, God. I thank you for that. I thank you for her recognizing that and for her putting aside the things that steal our attention and we don't even realize it. Lord, thank you for her maturity and showing her that and being able to step outside herself and look at her life in ways that she wants to improve on it. And Lord, I pray for the time she'd spend with you and just meet her where she prays, Lord. Meet her in that time. Just show her exactly what you want her to know for this upcoming year, and just affirm her and reaffirm her in the way that she talks with you and grows with you and the way that she finds you in the Word and trust you to lead her in these areas in her life. Lord, I pray blessings on her and Caleb and their family and moving back, and just thank you for their obedience to your call. Thank you for just being willing to do what they felt you were leading them to do. And I just pray that you continue to do that, Lord, and guide them and just show them your favor and bless them. And I just thank you for our friendship and the blessing that's been over all these years. And I just lift all this up to you and trust you for this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Sure.
I love you, girl. Thank you so much. Okay, Jenna, so tell us where we can find you at on social media and your website.
My website is findingpurposewithjennaking.com. On Instagram, you can find me as mrs.jenna.king, and on Facebook, it's just Jenna King.
Awesome. Thanks again, girl. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Good News Mama. Thanks for joining in. Jenna, thanks for your time with us today and for all the positive things you shared. If you enjoyed being a part of this conversation and want to hear more like it, let me hear it. Reviews are everything in the podcasting world, and it really helps to get the word out to those mamas that need a good dose of the good news. So, if you did, please leave me a review on iTunes. A 5-star review is best, and hit subscribe. Share with your friends on Instagram and Facebook. Please email me at lynn@goodnewsmama.com. You know, I love questions. I love feedback. I want to know what you want to know. We're going to talk about what means something to you. So let's hear it. Follow me on Instagram at Good News Mamas. That's mamas with an S. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Keep your head up, keep your heart humble, and share that good news.